Imagine a horse so wild no man dared tame it. A beast of legend, trapped in iron and fury. But one man, with nothing left to lose, stepped forward. What happened next would change everything. Daniel Mercer stood at the edge of the Hartwell livestock auction, a ghost among the living. His ranch was gone, foreclosed after years of drought. His wife Clara had died 2 winters ago, her heart giving out from the strain of their struggles. All he had left was an old duffel bag, a useless house key, and the gold ring he wore around his neck. The market bustled around him, but Daniel felt detached from it all. Cattle bawled, dust swirled, and the auctioneer's voice boomed across the grounds. Then a hush fell over the crowd as a battered stock trailer rattled in. Inside was a monster of a horse, black as night, with eyes like molten amber. Scars crisscrossed its hide like lightning strikes. When it screamed, the very earth seemed to tremble. Men muttered devil under their breath, while others called it tempest. The auctioneer tried to start the bidding at $200, but not a single hand went up. Even hardened ranchers backed away from the pen. The silence grew thick and heavy until Daniel stepped forward. He laid his last $20 bill on the table, then slowly removed Clara's ring from around his neck. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "He's lost his mind, trading his dead wife's ring for death on 4 legs." But in that moment, something extraordinary happened. The stallion, which had been thrashing wildly, suddenly went still. Its fierce gaze softened, fixed solely on Daniel. Daniel hauled the caged horse back to an old campsite in the foothills. For days, Tempest raged against his confinement, screaming into the night and battering the ground like thunder. But Daniel never flinched. He sat by the fire, speaking softly into the darkness. "I know what it's like to be caged," he told the beast. "I've seen deserts that broke stronger men than me. I buried Clara with my own 2 hands. You and I, we've both lost too much." Slowly, almost imperceptibly, trust began to form. A bucket of water accepted one morning, a slice of apple taken gently the next night. Finally, Daniel slipped a leather collar around the stallion's neck, carved with a single word. "Tempest, you're not my prisoner," he whispered. "You're my partner." Weeks later, Jack Rowland, an old rancher desperate for help, found Daniel. He offered him work, but only if the black horse stayed locked up. Daniel shook his head. "We come as a pair," he said simply. Reluctantly, Rowland agreed. The ranch hands mocked Daniel at first, calling him crazy for working with such a dangerous animal. But their laughter turned to awe when they saw Tempest move cattle. The stallion didn't scatter the herd with violence. Instead, he led them with a rhythm, his hooves falling like a steady drumbeat until the cattle flowed as calmly as water. Strange things began to happen around the ranch. Predators avoided the pastures where Tempest roamed. A creek that had run dry for years began to trickle again. Grass sprouted in places where nothing had grown in recent memory. Some dismissed it as coincidence, while others whispered of miracles. One afternoon, a fleet of black SUVs rolled onto the ranch. Victoria Hale, a sharp-suited executive from Apex Development, stepped out with an offer to buy the land for triple its value. She spoke of resorts and golf courses, but her eyes kept drifting to the newly revived creek. Rowland refused, but Hale's smile only hardened. "Everyone has a price," she said coolly. "When your debts come due, you'll remember mine." Daniel's instincts told him there was more to this than met the eye. His suspicions were confirmed when Clara's old friend Maria Lopez slipped him a stack of stolen documents. Inside were surveys and memos proving that Apex had been diverting rivers upstream, manufacturing the drought to force ranchers into selling. The realization hit Daniel like a physical blow. His ranch, Clara's life, had been stolen by men in suits. Rage and grief merged within him. "They didn't just starve the land," he told Tempest, his voice shaking. "They killed her with thirst." The stallion reared back and screamed into the night, a call so fierce it seemed to shake the very mountains. Driven by a need for answers, Daniel returned to his abandoned ranch. There he found Clara's hidden journal, filled with notes from conversations with Thomas Greyfeather, an elder of the Crow Nation. The journal spoke of the Horse Guardian, a spirit that appeared when the land was broken, choosing a human partner scarred by loss. As if summoned by Daniel's discovery, Greyfeather himself appeared at the ruins of the ranch. He looked at Tempest with reverence. "The Guardian has returned," he said solemnly, "and it has chosen you." Daniel trembled, suddenly understanding all the signs he had witnessed: the water, the grass, the calmed herds. "Then I accept," he whispered, pressing his hand to Tempest's powerful neck. Word spread quickly through the valley. Ranchers gathered at Mother Spring, the sacred heart of their community. That same morning, Apex returned with surveyors and armed guards. Hale brandished government-stamped papers declaring federal authority to seize the spring. Fear rippled through the assembled ranchers until Tempest stepped forward. His hoof struck the ground, and the earth itself seemed to shudder. The papers in Hale's hands burst into flame, crumbling to ash before her stunned eyes. Greyfeather's voice rang out, clear and strong. "The Guardian has spoken. No law of man stands above the law of the earth." Then, as if in answer to a prayer, the rain began to fall. It's not a gentle drizzle, but a torrent that drenched the valley, filling long dry gullies and causing Mother Spring to overflow its banks. Grass sprang up in the mud before their very eyes. Ranchers wept and laughed in equal measure, while children splashed joyfully in newly formed puddles. Cameras rolled, capturing the incredible scene. Live streams spread the images worldwide. A majestic black stallion rearing as rain fell on a land reborn. Apex's representatives fled under a chorus of jeers. Investigations followed swiftly, with their own documents proving deliberate water theft. Executives resigned in disgrace. Some even led away in handcuffs to face justice. Months later, Hollow Creek was officially renamed the Mercer Sanctuary. Ranchers kept their land but signed stewardship compacts to protect the valley for generations to come. Scientists flocked to the area, baffled but hopeful at the miraculous transformation. Wildlife returned in abundance. Elk, bison, wild horses, even predators, all living in an uncanny harmony around Tempest's presence. Daniel chose to live simply in a lined shack, his grief reshaped into a sense of purpose. Local children took to calling him Mr. Mercer Storm, after the horse who had saved them all. He would smile, shake his head, and answer softly, "The land chose him." I only stood beside him. Tempest would sometimes vanish into the hills for weeks at a time, only to reappear at dawn by the spring. Daniel never tried to tether him. "You don't keep thunder," he would say. "You walk with it while it's here." One summer day, at another livestock auction, Daniel spotted a starving colt. Too weak to even stand straight, it was dismissed as worthless. Without hesitation, Daniel stepped forward, his hands steady. "I'll take her," he said simply. As he led the colt home, he looked to the ridge. There stood Tempest, his black mane lit by the setting sun, amber eyes burning with an otherworldly light. Out the stallion dipped his head once, a gesture of approval and acceptance. Daniel smiled, turning to the weak colt at his side. "See that?" he whispered. "We've got his blessing." The spring sang again, a joyful melody of rebirth. The grass wore its green like a new promise. Ranchers mended fences with renewed care and purpose, while children learned to read the stories written in tracks left in the soft mud. And somewhere in the hills, the black stallion raised his head and called out, not in fury, but in command. The entire valley seemed to listen, holding its breath in reverence. For Daniel Mercer, it was enough. He had found not just a horse, but a purpose greater than himself. Not just survival, but true renewal. And the world would long remember the day the Guardian returned, bringing hope back to a land that had forgotten how to dream.